Welcome to an Introduction to Medicare. Thank you for attending the third video in this invaluable four-part series. My name is Ed Smith, President of Valor Wealth Partners. As a certified financial planner, I lead a team specialized in educating federal employees on maximizing value from their government benefits by developing and executing a financial plan. Out of the 6 steps we've defined in the previous videos, Step 2 is choosing a Medicare path. Remember, by path, we're referring to the type of coverage that's best for your unique needs. For most people, this choice will be either Original Medicare with a Medigap policy or a Medicare Advantage plan. But you may also have retiree or military coverage. The important thing is to take a look at all of your different options you have and choose what's best for you. Not your spouse, not your best friend, but you. To get a solid understanding of why the initial path selection is so important, we have to start with the basics of Medicare. You've probably heard that Medicare has 4 parts: A, B, C, and D. However, we prefer not to teach it this way. In our experience, people have a tendency to treat this like a shopping list. I have to get an A, a B, a C, and a D. But that's just not true. Technically, Medicare Part C is not a part. It's simply a different way to get Parts A, B, and D. So instead, we prefer to teach that Medicare has 3 parts and 2 distinct paths. 2 unique ways to get these 3 parts. We'll talk about these paths in a minute, but first, let's review the 3 parts of Medicare. Medicare Part A is hospital insurance. This part of Medicare is premium-free for those that have paid Medicare taxes for 10 years, or for those that have a spouse that has paid. If you are ever hospitalized or in need of skilled nursing facilities or hospice services, not assisted living facilities, this is the part of Medicare that will provide you with coverage. Part B is Medicare insurance. This part of Medicare has a monthly premium. In 2020, the monthly premium for those who are new to Medicare is $135.50. This part of Medicare provides you with the services you'll need to diagnose and treat a medical condition. This part of Medicare is optional, but if you do not enroll in this coverage, you could face late enrollment penalties later on. Part D is prescription drug coverage. This is coverage provided and administered by private insurance companies, not the U.S. government. This coverage helps to cover the cost of medications in a plan's formulary. A drug formulary is essentially a catalog of the drugs that a plan will cover and how it covers them. It's important to note that, in most cases, you will share in the cost of your prescriptions through deductibles, copays, coinsurance while on Part D plan. But Part D plans do not cover over-the-counter medications, vitamins, and other supplements. Now that we've discussed the basic parts of Medicare, let's talk about the 2 distinct paths, or types of Medicare coverage. Most people, when they turn 65, have 2 path options: Original Medicare or Medicare Advantage. Some people may have additional path options such as retiree coverage or military coverage. But for today's session, we'll address these 2 main paths. First, let's talk about the path of Original Medicare. This Medicare is administered by the U.S. government. That's why we've placed the Capitol building in the background. Technically, the U.S. government is in charge. When you choose this path, you can say any provider who accepts Medicare, regardless of their location. This means you can see providers while traveling within the U.S. and receive the same coverage as you would at home. This path always starts with a person enrolling in Part A and Part B. Technically, you could stop right there and say, I'm enrolled in Medicare. Yes, technically that's true. However, by themselves, Part A and B can be very expensive. In fact, Part A has a $1,400 deductible essentially every time you are hospitalized. Part B has a 20% coinsurance every time you see a doctor, a specialist, or have an outpatient procedure. and Parts A and B by themselves have no maximum out-of-pocket limit. That's no cap in spending. So for comprehensive coverage, you also add a Medigap policy and Part D prescription drug plan, both provided by private insurance companies. With these pieces in place, most, if not all, of the out-of-pocket costs of having A and B by themselves can go away. Let's learn a bit more about what a Medigap policy is. A Medigap policy is the same thing as a Medicare supplement. These policies cover those things that Medicare Parts A and B do not cover, such as the $1,400 hospitalization deductible or the 20% coinsurance for healthcare services. With this coverage, you essentially pay one monthly premium and then have very few, if any, out-of-pocket costs. With a Medigap policy, you essentially never need to worry about Medicare A and B not having an out-of-pocket spending limit, because you essentially do not have out-of-pocket costs with this coverage. Medigap policies have been standardized by the federal government into 10 different plans, known by letters such as Plan C or Plan F. Regardless of the insurance provider or the premium you pay for this coverage, each plan must provide the same basic benefits as every other plan of the same letter. For example, the Plan G you get from Mutual of Omaha will cover the exact same things as the Plan G you get from Humana. It is important to spend time picking the best plan for your current and future healthcare needs. In order to get a Medigap policy with no questions asked, you must have a guaranteed issue right. So what is a guaranteed issue right? This is a rule that essentially ensures that you can get a Medigap policy with no medical questions asked, otherwise known as no medical underwriting. When you have a guaranteed issue right, insurance companies cannot deny you a policy or raise rates based on your medical history. You have a guaranteed issue right to get a Medigap policy for the first 6 months that you are 65 years or older and are enrolled in Medicare Part B for the first time. Once both these are true, basically a clock starts ticking down until the expiration of your guaranteed issue right. After you lose your guaranteed issue right, insurance companies can put you through underwriting, ask you medical questions. If they find anything they do not like, they can deny you coverage. You may not be able to get this coverage again in your lifetime. 4 states, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Maine, give residents the ability to still get a Medigap policy with no medical questions asked outside of the standard guaranteed issue right. Other states offer special accommodations to switch from one Medigap policy to another without underwriting, but this will not apply from switching from Medicare Advantage plan to a Medigap policy. So basically, on the path of original Medicare, you will pay a monthly premium for Medigap and Part D prescription drug plans, then have basically no out-of-pocket cost for healthcare services. Now let's take a closer look at the costs associated with the path of original Medicare. Part A is premium-free for those who have paid 40-plus quarters of Medicare taxes or their spouses. Everyone enrolled in Part B, regardless of path, pays the Part B premium. Those enrolling in Medicare in 2020 pay $144.60 per month. The price of a Medigap policy varies by company, zip code, age, type of plan, etc. But the national average plan premium is about $180 per month. A standalone Part D drug plan begins about $15 per month and goes up from there. Remember, when you have a Medigap policy, you essentially pay one monthly premium and then basically have no out-of-pocket costs for healthcare services. Now let's talk about the other path of Medicare known as Medicare Advantage. First, you'll notice that there is no U.S. Capitol building in the background. Instead, we've put a corporate building. The reason why is that when you choose this path, this is Medicare administered by a private insurance company. On this path, the insurance company is in charge. They get to make the rules. And when you visit the doctor, you'll show your insurance card, not your Medicare card. On this path, Medicare Advantage plans require you to enroll in Part A and B, but they change the rules that you must follow in order to get these services. More on that in just a minute. Plans on this path usually include Part D drug coverage as well. Then to make this path as attractive as possible, the plans available on this path usually have very low or no monthly premiums. Plus, they sometimes add elements of dental, vision, and hearing coverage that original Medicare typically does not include. Now, the insurance company essentially takes all of these ingredients of coverage and they put them in a blender to create a new type of Medicare coverage, known as an MAPD plan, a Medicare Advantage with Part D drug coverage. This is what Medicare refers to as Part C. But as you can see, this is much more of a path than a part. Now remember, on the path of Medicare Advantage, you must follow the rules of the insurance company. Here are some of the most critical rules. You must see providers in a network. If you go outside of the network, you may not have any coverage. As a result, you may have to pay any bills on your own. If you have a plan with out-of-pocket coverage, you'll likely pay more for services, 50% of a doctor's visit or hospital stay, and it's important to remember that legally, these provider networks can change at any time. With Medicare Advantage plans, you are subject to prior authorization. This means that your doctor may say you need surgery, but before you can get that surgery, you have to get the insurance company to agree that you need surgery and be willing to pay for it. Prior authorization typically comes into play for services like home care, surgery, physical therapy, and seeing specialists. And each time you use healthcare services with a Medicare Advantage plan, you'll be responsible for paying any deductibles, co-payments, co-insurance up to the national maximum of out-of-pocket limit, which can change each year. So the path of Medicare Advantage is essentially the opposite of original Medicare. You will pay very low or no monthly premiums, but then you will pay something every time you use healthcare services. And if you don't follow the rules of the insurance company, you may be on the hook for paying the full cost of healthcare services, regardless of the out-of-pocket spending limit. Now let's take a look at the costs on the path of Medicare Advantage. Once again, if you or your spouse has paid 40 plus quarters of Medicare taxes, you'll receive Part A for free. And yes, you still pay for Medicare Part B on the path of Medicare Advantage. Now this is where the big cost difference comes in. While you would pay about $180 per month for Medicare Supplement plan and about $30 for a Part D plan, you can pay nothing in premiums for an MAPD plan. But keep in mind, whenever you use healthcare services on the path of Medicare Advantage, you'll be responsible for paying any deductibles, co-pays, co-insurances, and up to the plan's annual maximum out-of-pocket spending limit. And any services that are out of network or that you cannot get prior authorizations for, you can be entirely your costs. Now, why your initial enrollment path decision is so very important. In 46 states, as soon as you make your path decision and begin to head in that direction, you basically have to imagine that an earthquake happens behind you. Now, if you want to change paths, types of coverage, you must wait for a bridge. But bridges only show up at certain times of the year, and in order to cross, you have to follow the rules of the bridge. It's actually pretty easy to switch from original Medicare to Medicare Advantage. Advantage plans must take you regardless of any pre-existing medical conditions. The problem comes is if you want to switch from Medicare Advantage to original Medicare. In most cases, you no longer have your guaranteed issue right, your guaranteed ability to get a Medigap plan. This means that if you'd like to switch paths, the insurance companies that provide Medigap plans can have you submit medical records and give a blood sample. If they find anything they do not like, they can charge you more for coverage or deny you a plan altogether. Without a Medigap policy, you're once again subject to all of the deductibles, co-pays, co-insurance inherent in Part A and B by themselves, without no spending limit. So this is why we say people can get stuck, because essentially if you cannot get a Medigap policy, there's really nothing to switch to any longer that would be better from a financial perspective. Now, are you ready for the twist? In the states of Connecticut, Massachusetts, Maine, and New York, the earthquake has never happened. This means that at age 65, you can head in the direction of Medicare Advantage. If you're diagnosed with cancer, heaven forbid, at the age 68, you can switch back to the path of original Medicare and still get a Medigap policy, because you have a continuous guaranteed issue right in these 3 states. Some other states like California, Maine, Missouri, and Washington have more generous Medigap open enrollment rights, but nothing quite like these 3 states. But even in these states, there are still a few important things to keep in mind. 1. Medigap policy premiums in these states can be 20 to 200% higher than in other states. And 2, you still only have the ability to change types of coverage during certain times of year. Wow. So, is there anything else to know? Of course! In the 4th and final video in this series, we are going to look at 2 common myths. We'll also show you a personalized tool that can walk you through this confusing process. We look forward to seeing you in the final video.